Coming up next on Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable, state lawmakers agree to phase out the Ames test from Arizona high schools, legislation that allows teachers to carry guns in rural schools advances, and also advancing a revised bathroom bill. Those stories and more next on the Journalists Roundtable.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable. I'm Ted Simons. Joining me tonight are Jeremy Duda of the Arizona Capital Times, Mike Sunnix of the Phoenix Business Journal, and Luigi Del Puerto from the Arizona Capital Times. Ames is out and Common Core looks to be in, although technically they haven't said it is going to be Common Core in that park test, but Ames is adios, correct?
Yeah, Ames is gone, and we generally know what is going to replace it. You know, the governor signed this bill yesterday that eliminates the Ames test. Now, it doesn't actually say what will replace it. That's up to the Board of Education. But what everyone's been looking at is this test called PARC, and I forget what the acronym calls for, but this is part of these Common Core standards, these kind of nationally developed higher academic standards. The Governor Brewer is very big on this, wants to implement these in the schools. You know, that's met some resistance from some legislative Republicans who feel like this is some sort of federal power grab or even maybe some sort of UN plot or something. But you know, for now, but one thing's for sure is that Ames is gone.
Well, we go through these things, once a decade, where we bring in a new standardized test, a new set of standards, and the business community and various elected officials think it's a good idea, it's going to prepare our kids for the future, and then they implement it, and nobody likes it. It costs too much for the schools, people don't like the test for whatever reason. It happened with Ames, too. So we'll see how long Common Core lasts, probably 10 years.
Do we know, I mean, isn't that one of the criticisms of Common Core in the park test, is that we don't really know how much this is going to cost?
That's correct. Even the governor's office had admitted early on that they do not really know how much implementing Common Core standards would cost. There were some estimates running up to several $100 million, but we're not really sure how much it would take to implement this new program. And
you mentioned opposition. I know the Tea Party we had the Tea Party on the program, and they were very much against this, and they see this as some sort of federal, but this is a kind of a consortium of states, is it not, that's getting together, and they're basically saying at least we'll have something to compare and contrast with.
Yeah, and I remember when the governor first started you know, advocating for Common Core, one of your arguments, her and her allies, was, well, you know, this isn't from the federal government. This is developed by a bunch of states. There are, more rigorous, higher standards that are going to get us to, Arizona school children to compete in the global marketplace. And, like you guys mentioned, we don't know exactly what this will look like, exactly what it'll cost. They haven't even specifically chosen the new test yet, but it's not supposed to go into effect for a year and a half, so we've got a lot of time to argue about this at the legislature.
Well, there's a lot of good motivations behind it. I mean, U.S. students lag behind other countries in math and science and high-wage jobs and engineering, those types of things. So the motivations behind it, you see the business community talking about these things, are good, but it's just the implementing it, how much it's going to cost the states. All these other problems. No Child Left Behind was actually something that Ted Kennedy and George W. Bush worked on together. A year later, everyone hated it. So, there's always a lot of unintended consequences with these
And from what I understand, Luigi, this test is not fill in the blank, pick one A, B, C, or D. This is explain to me, write this out, or describe. There's much more of a sense of understanding the topic that you are being tested on, as opposed to, I think I'll pick D and see if that's right.
Right. Instead of a multiple questionnaire, what's required of students is more analysis of the question. And also, by the way, this is going to be conducted online. And one of the questions is that whether the school districts are actually capable of implementing this technology-wise.
Do you think there's appetite at the legislature when they find out that it's going to cost not so much X, but maybe X plus Y? Are they ready for this?
Well, if you remember that there was a big giant debate over a transplant issue a few years ago, over a few $1 million. And if you imagine if the cost of this one runs up to $200 million or so, just to prepare the technology to ensure that we are indeed able to implement this test, I think that would have a difficult time sailing through in this legislature.
It's a good point on the digital divide stuff. How do different school districts implement this thing? Does Scottsdale, which is a wealthier district, have a much easier time, much more resources? Can they leverage the parents more than implementing this thing than districts in poorer parts of the state? And that's always a challenge.
We talked about the concern by some that this is some sort of national takeover, power grab by the U.S. government or even the UN over educating Arizonans. There's also a similar argument regarding Medicaid and expanding Medicaid and being part of that whole process. And now a new factor has been put into the debate. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, as if, like the governor and her allies really needed this to become more complicated at the legislature. But the abortion issue has emerged in the Medicaid debate. Groups like the Center for Arizona Policy, some lawmakers, conservative pro-life lawmakers like Carl Seal are raising the issue on whether or not these Medicaid dollars, if we expand, are going to go to groups, abortion providers like Planned Parenthood. Now, state and federal law already prohibits, Medicaid from being and taxpayer dollars from being used to conduct elective abortions. But, if Planned Parenthood treats Medicaid patients, and it treats some, not that many compared to its overall patient load, but they use some of that money for administrative expenses, which would theoretically cover all of their services and therefore in some way assist abortions. And there's opposition starting to line up. Kathy Herod from the Center of Arizona Policy wrote a letter to the governor and Speaker Tobin and President Biggs asking for pro-life language, preventing that to be inserted into this plan, which, may or may not bring along some Republican votes. It'll probably cost you some Democratic votes.
How does that change the dynamic, Luigi, of this whole debate?
I think it changes it a lot. Potentially it changes it a lot. I think Paul Boyer had told a reporter, I think it was Jeremy he had spoken with earlier, and he said, well, if this is indeed true, if this would result in providing more funds to abortion providers, not to pay for the abortion procedure per se, but to help them free up some of their funds and help with their overhead costs, then it might cost his vote. On the other hand, if the governor agreed with the request from the Center for Arizona Policy to include like a pro-life language in Medicaid, it might cost them some Democratic votes as well.
What was interesting, a couple weeks ago, Planned Parenthood came out in favor of this Medicaid expansion. They're usually not on the same issue as the governor, and a lot of people, when they first saw the email that they sent out supporting the Medicaid expansion, thought, well, does this kind of stir the pot a little bit? And obviously it has. It's been interesting because conservative opposition to this thing, this is a big expansion of government. This is glomming onto an Obamacare thing. You would think conservatives would be up in arms, but the governor's pushing it, and she's got a lot of other Republicans and business folks in her camp. And so I think they've been looking for an issue to get behind, and abortion certainly gets the base going.
And remember, last year the legislature passed this bill, House Bill 2800, which prohibits organizations that perform abortions like Planned Parenthood from partaking in Medicaid, from partaking in the Access program, and a federal judge threw that out just a month or two ago. Now the state is appealing that decision, but if that stands up, then there's no way to prevent these the expansion from including groups like that.
But the governor did come out and say that allowing and encouraging the expansion of Medicaid in this fashion was a pro-life thing to do, which caught a lot of people by surprise. Is this coming back to bite her a little bit?
Well, I've heard people essentially say that maybe she opened a can of worms by proposing at that point that this is a pro-life position. I think strategically speaking, whether the governor intended it or not, I think it was still the right thing for her to do. My analysis of this one is that it allowed the governor to sort of prevent her critics, who I think at one point or another would still come out swinging against Medicaid expansion, trying to find a reason, and now they've found one reason, abortion, but they are still going to oppose it. It would still say that this is not a pro-life position, but then the governor prevented them from essentially monopolizing the claim. And now the governor can also say, oh, you know what, this is a pro-life position, and we may disagree with that, but you don't have the monopoly of the claim that yours is the only pro-life position.
Well, there's a distinction within the conservative community that you don't see come up that much. Just because someone's fiscally conservative and socially conservative, there's a difference between that. You can be opposed to abortion, but then also be for social welfare spending and opposed to the death penalty. And a lot, politics obviously puts people into corners. And so sometimes you see that there's a clash between the fiscal conservatives that don't want to spend a lot of money, want smaller government, and social conservatives who are concerned about children and of course, abortion and the death penalty.
All right, let's keep it moving here. We got that gun bill that I think Rich Crandall was behind for small schools, rural schools, these kinds of things that are far away from law enforcement. That seems to be moving along.
Oh, yeah, it got out of, it's already passed through the Senate. It got out of a House committee this week. The bill would allow school, rural schools that don't have school resource officers to have, teachers with guns. There are a lot of criteria. You have to have fewer than 600 students. You have to be, I think, 30 miles from, or 20 miles from the nearest, 30 miles and 20 minutes from the nearest law enforcement agency. So it's got limited applications. But of course, this is very controversial. The Democrats don't like it. They say, if you do this, it's only a matter of time before there's an accident, before a teacher accidentally shoots a student or another teacher or a parent or something. And interestingly, the teachers would have to get training from from POST, the state agency that certifies and trains police officers. And POST is actually opposed to this. They say we don't really have the resources to conduct these extra trainings. So it'll be interesting to see how that weighs on the governor if that gets to her
I think
desk.
the bill's modeled after a bill in Texas that's been in place for a while. I don't think they've had any problems. And this legislature loves bills in Texas lately, regulatory bills, legal tort reform bills, and they've looked at this thing in Texas. And it's been in there for a while. There's some common sense applications to it. Paying for it, obviously, is an issue, and figuring out who can have them, what kind of guns, that type of thing.
I've also heard liability as something to be concerned about as well. Not much concern there?
Well, certainly we've heard people express a concern about liability. If you're bringing in a gun to a school and at some point and at some place in the school storing it and allowing a teacher to access that gun, I mean there are issues about liability there. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and I could see a scenario where perhaps an angry grandparent comes to the school and people are armed and tempers flare and what is going on with Don Shooter?
That is quite a story, and it was quite a headline to see Shooter barges into school from the AP. So that was pretty interesting to read. That he obviously has some kind of his grandson goes to this school. It's a school for I think troubled youths and teenage moms, and he barged past the receptionist, barged into the classroom, and really had at the teacher a lot of obscenities and finger wagging, and quite an incident, and especially coming from a state legislature. It's quite a story down there. We'll see what kind of happens up here at the Capitol.
And who is Don Shooter again?
Don Shooter is a two-term state senator from Yuma, very conservative. He chairs the Senate Appropriations Committee, which makes him one of the most powerful people down at the Capitol.
And according to the police report, he wanted people to know that he was one of the most powerful people. I guess afterwards he got in hold of some people with the education community down there and reminded them of who he was.
Well, according to the police report, he had called somebody from the school, from the state's charter school association, and basically wanted that person to call the school and to try and diffuse the tension. Just to be clear, there were no arrests made. He has not been charged of anything at this point. They're still investigating the case. And even if he were charged, for example, we would probably see this case move on to somewhere after the session ended just because he has legislative immunity. The reaction that we're getting from lawmakers at this point is that let's not get down into the possibility of an ethics investigation at this point. Let's have the police investigate, find out what exactly happened. And today he released a statement saying that he had gone to the school because it had something to do with bullying, and he wanted to square that with the teacher.
And we should mention the police report suggests that it had something to do with instruction with the teacher, and the teacher apparently does want to go ahead and press charges here.
Yeah, it seems like there's some conflicts over what exactly happened, what they were arguing about. Barged by a receptionist, barged into the classroom. I did think he apologized at some point when the school called him, but it seems a trend that we have some state lawmakers that like to make sure people know that they're state lawmakers in certain situations.
And just to be clear, no one was armed, correct? Students, teachers, Shooter?
Not that we know of. We'll see what happens if some of these bills pass, but not for now.
All right, for now, no one was. Okay. We have yet another bathroom bill here. Now, this is not the old bathroom bill. This is a new bathroom bill, and it's already advanced out of committee. What's going on here?
Yeah, this is a softer, gentler bathroom bill. And this is in response to the City of Phoenix's LGBT protection ordinance. There were a lot of concerns raised about, whether transgender people could use, the other bathroom, whether, women wanted, a man who identifies as a woman, dresses as a woman, to use their restroom. And so John Kavanaugh originally was going to run this bill that would make that a misdemeanor, make that a crime. Now, even some Republicans had some issues with that. They felt like government should, stay out of our bathrooms. So the bill that passed the other day out of committee, Kavanaugh's bill, this would grant protections to individuals and businesses from legal action if they refuse to allow transgender people to use, what they view as the wrong bathroom.
And again, proof would be the birth certificate defines restroom use here. Is that am I getting that correct?
Yeah, I think so. And the state would regulate public restrooms, which seems a little odd that the state would take that over from cities. I think that would be one of the provisions. And a business or somebody could allow folks to use these bathrooms if they wanted. But it's in reaction to the Phoenix ordinance, and it's a way to gin up the base on the right, which opposed that thing and lost, and so they've taken the fight to the Capitol.
The original version of the bill is the one that talked about having a birth cert or making sure that you go into the bathroom that had the same sex as your birth certificate. This latest one
gets away from all that.
Gets away from all of that and basically says that government cannot wade into this issue of the transgendered folks or gender identity in bathrooms and what have you. So essentially, it says that local governments may not regulate this particular issue, and businesses would not be essentially dinged or subject to any penalty if they, for example, decided whatever they want to decide how they run their bathrooms.
This is another instance of Republicans, in this case, at the legislature, not liking what a city did in Phoenix and trying to take that power away. We see this all the time with all types of other issues, impact fees, those type of things. But this is a little more contentious, a little more made for TV than Simpson.
Speaking of contentious, the hearing sounds like it was, there were a lot of passionate voices there, people yelling shame on you and all this kind of, some folks were weeping and stuff. I mean, this got a little rowdy there, sounds like.
Yeah, I heard some people were even cursing at the committee members, a lot of crying, a lot of people very unhappy with John Kavanaugh, which some folks tried to carry on into another issue.
Yeah, yes.
Every time you try to legislate on social behavior, I think it's going to create a whole lot of, it's going to be very emotional.
Yes.
And it's going to be very difficult. I mean, legislating social behavior is never an easy thing to do.
Well, this kind of comes out of folks of faith, conservative folks. We're worried about this Phoenix ordinance forcing them to hire folks they didn't want to. They're going to get sued. If a church or religious organization didn't want to hire someone that was transgendered or something, they're worried they're going to get sued over this. But this bathroom thing is kind of a salacious part of this. I don't think there's much in the Phoenix thing that really even talked about that. It was just hiring protections, city contracts, those type of things. And it kind of glommed out of this basically because of this Scottsdale incident back in, 2006, where you had some transgender folks that got in an incident at a nightclub.
Anderson's Fifth Estate, yeah. All right. We mentioned that people were upset with John Kavanaugh, so much so now we're seeing people filing a recall petition against him.
Yes, recall madness continues, or as Kavanaugh said to me the other day, March Madness. A couple of students, one's a member of the board of directors of the Arizona Students Association, the other, I believe, is an intern there, or used to be an intern there. They filed this recall attempt against Kavanaugh over some actions he's taken against ASA, over the bathroom bill, and over some recall election laws he's trying to do that would help people, people like Joe Arpaio specifically right now who could face a recall. Now this needs 17,000 signatures in 120 days. People file these things all the time. I usually try not to even pay attention to them unless I have some reason to think they're serious, because people file a handful of these things every year. None of them ever pass.
Well, not only that, this would make the third elected official facing some kind of a recall effort with Chad Campbell and Joe Arpaio. Chad Campbell's recall effort is interesting in that, this may be the start of his gubernatorial campaign.
Right. I walked into him a few days ago and I asked him if this is a good thing, and he smiled at me. And I would think this would be probably the best thing that has ever happened to him ever since he's announced his intentions to run for governor. This elevates his profile. Now he has a committee that he can actually help raise money for that committee and then use it to prop his name up, give him a statewide. More of a statewide proposal, and absolutely, this is a good thing for Chad Campbell.
Generally, recalls are good for minority parties. Gray Davis in California, the Russell Pierce thing. It's a chance for the minority party, the folks that don't have a chance of winning a race, a lot of races, a lot of seats, to kind of go after someone that's had some transgressions. Obviously, Gray Davis lost, Russell Pierce lost. The Kavanaugh and Campbell things, I don't know if it's really caught to the public voters' attention, but it gives the minority parties a chance to raise money, organize people, and kind of go after somebody. Do something. You saw it in Wisconsin also.
And this opened up this whole Campbell thing. This exposed kind of a very quirky loophole in Arizona's campaign finance laws. This committee formed, nominally independent committee formed, Arizonans for Chad Campbell, to help out Campbell in the recall. And the view of these things, we haven't really seen them used much because there's so few recalls. But the view of these things is, the candidate can't actually coordinate with them. That's what Russell Pierce thought in 2011, but it turns out, Campbell checked with the Secretary of State's office with some attorneys, turns out he can. He's helping them raise money, and because this isn't a candidate committee, they can raise money in unlimited amounts. He could accept a $1 million check. They can't do independent expenditures, so he can't use it to tell people to vote for him, but he could run $1 million worth of ads on TV, featured himself saying, I'm Chad Campbell, oppose the recall, don't sign the petition, support
I'll
Chad
be interested
Campbell.
to see if Chad Campbell can get a $1 million check from somebody.
But it's quite the tactic, Luigi. It's like, let's get someone to fucking recall me so I can start raising some bucks.
Well, I would be interested to see the next recall committee set up by whoever wants to run for a statewide office.
Exactly.
You don't even need a active recall against you to form one of these committees. You can just say, well, I'm worried about it, so I'm starting this committee now.
All right. We'll try to figure out the logic.
Next Monday, we're going to see 1,000 recall committees
yes,
formed.
Everyone wants to recall everyone.
Secretary of State.
A lot of folks want to turn around the Independent Redistricting Commission's legislative maps here. We got this lawsuit going on here. This is under a lot of folks' radar, but it's important business. What's going on here?
The Republicans continue to go after this Independent Redistricting Commission, basically because the independent chairman sided with the Democrats, and they're trying to find all types of reasons of why their actions were invalid. They colluded with state lawmakers, Democratic state lawmakers. They violated open meetings laws, and all these lawsuits are kind of part and parcel of that, of trying to find a way to prove that to the judges, and it's a challenge for them to prove that just because they didn't like the result.
Yeah, this lawsuit technically is based on the allegation that the legislative map is unconstitutional because there's too much deviations between the populations from one district to the other. They say you guys underpopulated the Democratic districts and overpopulated the Republican ones to give the Dems an advantage. Now, you're actually allowed to do that to a greater or lesser degree, in order to meet, for stuff like complying with the Voting Rights Act, which is what most of this was. But a lot of it seems geared at, like Mike said, trying to expose what they've said is, conspiracy. Now, they've had this trial for every day for the past week, and they don't seem to have found their smoking gun yet. But they have uncovered some kind of interesting stuff.
Yeah, some Democrats would probably call it coincidence, but there was some email traded back and forth among the party leaders and elected leaders, and so I guess the Democratic representative on the commission, correct?
Yeah, and there are two Dems on the commission, and one of the things that they were trying to show during this hearing is that there was collusion or very strong, back and forth between Democratic Party officials and those Democratic commissioners.
Doesn't this all? I mean, the fact that the Department of Justice has already approved these maps, I mean, that's a pretty high hurdle to cross.
Yeah, they have a tough time. I'm kind of surprised that they're not trying to look at going forward how to address this and basically for Republicans work out a system that works to their benefit a little more than this. They got screwed in this because there was 3 votes on the Democratic side, including the independent commissioner on most things, and 2 votes on the Republicans. I would think some Republicans down there, instead of litigating this kind of after the fact, kind of look at how to handle this, maybe take it to the voters again.
Yeah, they've got 8-9 years to figure this out till the next redistricting commission, and it does seem like there was a lot of cooperation between the Democratic Party officials, some of the commissioners. Obviously, the independent chairwoman Colleen Mathis sided with the Democrats. But what gets lost in this, what a lot of people say, is the problem wasn't that the Democrats tried to influence things their way. The problem is that the Republicans didn't, and which you expect both sides to do, because it's redistricting. This is really one of the kind of most underhanded, shady parts of the American political process in general.
It's such a subjective process. You mentioned all the factors, the Voting Rights Act, population levels. It's such a subjective way. You could draw maps a lot of different ways. And so it's hard to prove that, oh, wow, they were nefarious in drawing it this way. And maybe just this was one of the options that they looked at and went with it.
And the fact is that the commissioners are allowed to deal directly with the public, including state lawmakers, by the way. So it's perfectly fine for lawmakers to lobby these commissioners and try to get them to redraw the maps to their liking.
Before we go, Eddie Bastiat dies, Arizona icon. What are you hearing from lawmakers and from leaders, Arizona leaders, regarding the legacy of Eddie Bastiat?
Well, the 2 days after he passed away, you heard the tributes to him reverberate in the halls of the state Senate and the state House. I think I might have mentioned earlier that T.J. Shope, who is a grocer, mentioned how Bastiat had opened his warehouse when their supplier to some of the grocery stores had gone out of business, and saved essentially his grocery. And you heard a lot of things about how Eddie Bastiat had taken action and touched people's lives at a very deep and personal level. And you heard those at the state capitol.
He was kind of a different business guy. He was an Arizona guy, had a big, huge art collection, one of the biggest in the art collections of Native American art, Western art in the world. A liberal guy, was for accepting of same-sex marriage back in 1994 when he ran against Symington. That was a big issue in the race, and now it's a big national issue. It's kind of, the tide's kind of shifted on that.
Yeah, I think Bash is probably going to be remembered most for, his civic activities. He was very pro-education, got involved in a lot of educational causes, a lot of charitable and philanthropic causes. I mean, in a lot of ways, he'll be remembered as the candidate for '94, and those gay marriage comments. A lot of people feel like that cost him the race too. But on both sides of the aisle, you're seeing a lot of outpouring of grief and mourning and sympathy for him.
All right, very good, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Good to have you here. Appreciate you being here on the Journalists Roundtable. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.